Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where you guys are. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint, and we have another Winter's Path event coming up with us. This one's going to be more of, like, basically a transition downwards type path, and you're going to be able to acquire some rewards along the way if you can hit some objectives, which I will show you guys here in just a moment. So, if you guys haven't seen it already, there's a lot of things that you can do to complete this event in particular, such as getting artifacts and accessories. It's like your Dungeon Divers-esque experience. Summoning champions, which if you look down here, looks like it's going to be pretty much kind of associated with what you use, not what you get. So this is more of like your Summon Rush style approach. And then, of course, summoning Soulstones from Souls from Soulstones, not what you get, what you use. Another Rush type event. So, with that being said, I'm not going to break down too much of like the necessity of it. I'm just going to kind of browse around and kind of give you guys a little bit of perspective about whether or not should you go forward or whatever the case may be. So, bringing it down from an early game perspective, it's going to be kind of hard for you to be able to acquire too much unless you're going to be either a spender or you've been saving up very, very diligently along the way, and that is with shards or soulstones. Really, that's pretty much the bulk of it. Now, if you're also contributing towards getting energy and whatnot a lot for your account, then obviously you're going to be able to do some Dungeon Diver type experiences too. Is it worthwhile? Well, I would say early game, being able to get more and more resources to be able to do crafts, such as, you know, maybe that perception to get you on the board, or other stuff that you've been slowly, gradually farming in, whether you're early, maybe mid or late. Some decent ones right here. You know, you have the rank up charms, the substat charms, the type charms, as well as the, I believe that's rarity. Yep, rarity charms as well. But I'd say right here at this breakpoint is kind of gonna, that's where it's gonna kind of define what you're gonna want to get and what you're gonna want to involve yourself in. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say from this row onwards is gonna be pretty subjective, but I will also give you a perspective, hopefully from different angles of the game. So let's break it down. Pretty much at this point, you kind of need to decide which way you want to go, right? Like you kind of have to do it pretty early on. On the left side, we have what's kind of the stuff that's like dust and oils for accessories. On the right side, we have dust and oils for what would be for artifacts. Now, between the two, the one that gets consumed the most is more so the right side. So more value out of this particular chaos dust versus this chaos powder, it goes in favor of dust for me, in my experience. On the next row, it would be kind of debatable on this one, but I will say glyphs are very, very valuable, and they're kind of time-gated outside of expenditures that you would do for what would be unrealistic, in my opinion, going through the Playing Point program, which is kind of just buying your way through, getting to enough resources to be able to acquire some along the way, and then you have to do a full rotation to go back to that same point again. Not really feasible, not really realistic. And the only alternatives maybe would be like a dungeon or a tournament or some kind of event that may give you something around the lines there. So, like, for example, we could try to see if there's any here. None there. Maybe in Fire Knight they might have one. There we go. So they do have a glyph for accuracy that's available. And you get those every now and then laced in between some events. But for the most part, it's all faction wars. And you're at the mercy of RNG at that point. So I value glyphs because they're kind of a time gate no matter what. Along with the IMG that you just kind of have to just bide your time until you get enough pieces, and hopefully you roll well enough to a point where you don't need those glyphs anymore. And I'm just going to give you a little TLDR. If you're early, mid, progressing all the way up towards endgame, as an endgame player, you're always going to need glyphs because you're always getting new gear. And sometimes you have a new game changer that needs investment, and that's a whole new piece to work with. And that means all that excess, all those glyphs that you were using before on other pieces are now going to be devoted towards that. So with that being said, I automatically kind of lean more towards this one, but I can't deny the value that an Epic Chaos Ore has on an account. You guys have heard me talk about it plenty of times in a lot of different videos where I take a really bad piece that rolled well, like I got a quad out of a legendary like attack flat gloves that didn't have really good substats. It was like flat defense that was in it, and then I flipped it. It went HP % with quad speed, one of my best pieces on my account, really. And you get that from Chaos Oring. It's possible, and I'm a living proof of it, and other people will probably say the same thing, so don't deny yourself the chance, right? Now, as for epic books and, of course, the free gear removal is nice. It's kind of hard to wanting to do a bunch of regearing all within a 3-hour period unless you're doing a complete overhaul of your account, which can be valuable, but there are other ways you can get it. Like every month or so, we get a free gear removal week, or like basically a set of days, like 5 days, 4 days or so, where you can kind of really do that and reappropriate gear on your account. The same thing with Epic Tombs on a daily basis. If you're getting good progression towards like mid-gamers and onwards, you'll probably start noticing this, but you'll start getting a lot more acquisition of Epic books as you climb up through Demon Lord. It's a lot more common. It's almost guaranteed almost. So this becomes a lot less mandatory. Maybe early game you're kind of looking forward, and maybe that could be a justification to go down this side. But for the most part, it becomes a lot less necessary to go after. I mean, I can show you right now. I'm not really keeping track of it because I kind of don't care anymore at this point. But I'm already 48 plus into epic books, and that's going to just keep going up until I have one game changer epic that needs to be invested towards, which as of the time of this recording, not really. So it's just kind of sitting there, right? So with that being said, it's kind of like maybe not as a high value. So it's kind of like pick your poison, glyph or chaos or for better gear opportunities or accessories. Then you get down to this bottom row right here where it's a singular, and this is where I think it's a no-brainer. Speed is such a substantial game changer stat in this game, and don't get me wrong, that ore could be the game changer you're looking for too, but that glyph right there is the reason why I would say early on I'm swinging towards the left. I know that I would probably favor, and this is the way I would favor it right now. In terms of this row right here, it's the dust. In terms of this row right here, it's probably the glyph, and then the runner-up would be chaos ore. On this one, it's a no-brainer speed for me. And then the Chaos Orb may not be a bad nod, and who knows, depending on how far you progress, how much you invest in towards these particular side events. There's a active SoulSaint event right now that's worth, dropping your mortals and your immortals, not the eternals, in terms of those events. So you may be able to, if you stocked up enough, you maybe could do it. It's possible. And then you're going to go down to the bottom row here, or this next row here, which is going to be basically legendary books. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to discount the rank 5 chicken and the barrel because as you progress in the game, it becomes a lot easier to generate this kind of food. And if you're patient enough, it's going to come naturally. So these are kind of easy to acquire. You can do this with just putting them inside the sparring pit, or whenever you have that daily to do your champion training type stuff, level up a champion, or to do a campaign run, do 3 boss fights. You can get kind of food farming there a little bit. Or while you're doing your natural farming, if you have those solo boss killers, like I've been running Stultus and Theodore together in Dragon Hard 10, which if you have something similar to that for whatever area you're farming in or whatever particular stage you're farming at, this becomes less of a necessity. These are easy to kind of acquire through other means. Legendary books, you know what? Depending on how many champions you get along the way, it can become very valuable. So I won't discount that. But this one in particular, this right here raises my eyebrows because souls and blessings in general are very, very valuable. And being able to acquire essence as you progress along the way to maybe take another champion up to the next level. And just so you're aware, it's 100 and 300 for legendaries. And mythics are going to come around the corner soon. So we're probably going to get those, maybe 400, 500. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to put for the number of it. But don't expect it to be anything less than what we already have for the legendary. So stockpiling these is not a bad thing to go ahead and start preparing for, right? And that's pretty much it. It's kind of like you're going to go down to the side columns on whichever direction you want to go in. And this is going to be based off of your champion preference here at this point. If you did the Titan event and you got a Sir Nick and you're wanting to use him for like maybe your clan boss, for your early game, mid game, late game, then obviously I would say probably getting involved with the Santa side may not be a bad nod. The same thing is also true though for Noelle, because there's probably speed tune comps that are existing out there that may allow these two champions to interact pretty efficiently. With that being said though, which one has more versatility overall in other areas of the game? I would argue that it probably would lean a little bit Noelle. So if you wanted my voice, my pick in this matter, I would say I probably lean left because she is not only the newer champion, but she has a little bit more to offer in her kit, more so than what Sir Nicholas does pretty linearly for like clan boss type content. Now, he can be useful in other areas, don't get me wrong, but like primarily I think that's probably where he's going to shine at. So in this particular case, you might get some value out of her and her passive or her aura and in PvP. Same thing with some of her kit. She has a revive that's on a 3-turn cooldown. Very valuable assets that can be utilized in other areas of the game. So I feel like Noelle would give a little bit more validity there. Now, past that point, we're going to get down to what's going to be more vanity. It's going to be basically your preference at this point. So I'm not going to hold too much of an opinion on whether or not you want the Sir Nicholas avatar or if you want the Lady Noelle avatar. More power to you. Now, at the very end, we have mythic books. Now, if you're amongst some of the other degenerates like me that like to pull some shards and like to pull some reds, you may have, and I'm not saying it's mandatory, but you may have acquired a couple champions along the way. And I will say personally for myself, I just got to the point where I was blessed by some members. Shout out to Fortune, where we got, some champions fully decked out, fully invested towards. And I finally got my Androck up and running, so maybe I can use him a little bit more aggressively in other areas of the game, right? And then I also got Androck. And then once I got Androck, it's like, well, now what? I got his base form fully booked, and I still need one more. for that A3, which is probably a big one right there, that ignore resistance is pretty OP. So I still have a need for it. And that's not to mention, just hypothetically speaking, they make it so interesting in future content or content that currently exists right now. Think Chimera, where maybe the second form of some of these champions that we kind of didn't care about before now have relevance, you never know. And I'm just kind of saying, like, I would love to do some stuff with Carnage. I have a fully awakened Carnage, and I have no books for him. And that's kind of been a little bit of a deterrent for me not wanting to use him, because it's like, man, I'm missing out on, like, 30% more damage on just the A1 alone, 20 and 20 on the other ones, cooldowns, which, means more damage over time. It all adds up, right? So it's kind of like, man, I kind of almost feel like I wish I had more books to maybe test these characters out, and that particular side of the event may be an area where you can kind of placate that just a little bit more. Now, in all, I won't lie that the blessings and some of the points along the way are pretty hefty. I won't lie. Like, for example, if you wanted to go down this route and you want to get at least the speed glyph and maybe the chaos aura, that's 10,000 points right there that you're gonna have to accumulate. Add the 1250, that now you're looking at 12,500. 13, 14. And then 14 and some change just to get to that point, let alone if you want to go down here to get a big blessing like the Lady Noelle or the Sir Nicholas one. So it is pretty hefty. I would say at this point in time, to get your bang for your buck, if you're looking to get both souls, at that point you would come from like one of these two angles here, go ahead and grab the key here, and then go down your respective alleys to get them. I'd probably do one at a time if I were you. Like, go down this angle. Since you start off with one key, go for the one that you have the highest priority for, so you can at least secure that one. And then if you're planning to have more resources, more points along the way, grab the key, then go down the side angle for the next or the alternative blessing one, then grab that one, and then home clearing from there. Now, if you're looking just to go for specific resources, then obviously you would just pivot straight towards it. So for me, if I wanted those mythical books, I'd probably go down the left side to get the speed glyph, which is probably the highest value for me, and then just jet all the way down the bottom left side to get towards those books, and then get the books and then call it a day. But no matter what, it's going to be pretty interesting depending on what you want on your account at this point in time. I think some of these things have some value. Some of things are kind of like throwaways. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way for the barrel or for the chicken. It may look enticing for you early gamers that are like, man, I just need more 6 stars and whatnot. It'll come. Patience is a virtue in this regard, and you'd be better off maybe investing in something that's a little bit more harder to acquire. So, with that being said, let me know in the comments below. Are you guys going to be going for this particular event? Is there anything in particular you're excited for? I'm curious. With that being said, I am probably going to dabble a little bit into it, since there's associated events that are kind of more for those I'm going to pull for. And if I get something good along the way out of this, then great, it's an extra W, but that's more of a bonus. That's how I'm looking at it right now. But with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always remember, stay ascended.
Critic got the